How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to another Path of Exile build showcase. In this one, I'm going to be showcasing to you my very updated Cyclone Chieftain that has cleared a tier 15 that you will be seeing on screen right now. Now, this is a kind of variation on my totem build. We respec'd it and tried to see what we could manage to do, and we managed to clear a tier 15 rather successfully. Now, I will warn you, we are playing Cyclone, so of course that means it's not a very good boss killer. You're going to be really fast at clearing trash and really efficient at clearing through mobs, but once you get to the boss, you're going to have your kill time slow down rather quickly. So with that being said, this is more of a starter build. Of course, you'll see me wearing a Combs Heart, but that's just to see how far I could push it. It's more of a starter build that you can transition into, say, my Flame Totem build, for example. Now, that being said, let's cover the items, the skill tree, the pantheons, you know, the whole nine, right? While you guys watch the glorious of tier 15 clear. Now, we are using a Nagamu's Flame because we are using this with Chieftain, of course, so we end up with full fire conversion. And the gem setup is kind of a little bit niche. You can take a blue gem setup here as well. We have Elemental Focus, Fortify, LE damage with attacks, and chance to bleed, as well as we have, of course, Vaal Cyclone linked in here. Now, I was trying to get 2 blue to get an increased area of effect, but we didn't have any luck there. So that's just the setup that we're rolling with right now. It gives us nice defensive layers with Fortify, as well as we have chance to bleed support, which plays into our pair of gloves, which are hemophilia, which makes it so that attacks have a chance to bleed, and then whenever you kill a bleeding enemy, they explode, dealing 5% of their maximum life as physical damage. Now, we're also running Herald of Ash, so you get some pretty nice explosions going off, and it gets pretty satisfying very quickly. Now, for the link setup that we have rolling in our gloves right here, we have Immortal Call. Now, you saw that I talked about Immortal Call in the Flame Totem video, that it wasn't really that great, but for whatever reason, we are actually able to generate endurance charges via the Chieftain node. I think it's this one right here, for killing a burning enemy. Which, even though we're using LE Focus, it still seems to give an endurance charge for whatever reason. So, as a result, we don't really need to use Enduring Cry. It's more of an oh shit button than it is anything else, giving us massive life regeneration. You could even potentially put Abyssal Cry here if you would like to. But as a result, we're using Immortal Call because not only will we be able to get Immortal Call up quite often, but we regenerate the endurance charges a lot faster than you would expect. Also, the tier 15 clear you're going to be watching actually doesn't have Immortal Call in the link setup. So it got a little bit more tanky than what you're watching at the moment. And that is linked to increased duration support, and I have Enfeeble linked with my cast when damage taken as well. So we have cast when damage taken Immortal Call and cast when damage taken Enfeeble, both linked to increased duration support down here in the gloves. These fellas are doing work. And then, of course, we have a Combs Heart in the chest piece. This isn't required. This is if you want to take it to the next level. You can use a brass dome here. You can use a rare chest piece. You can use pretty much whatever you want. If you were going to use a linkable chest piece, I would recommend putting Ancestral War Chief in here to make the bossing a little bit easier. Maybe link that to just increased damage all around and see how that goes for you. Maybe do some experimentation with that. That would be my recommendation. But I like being really tanky, and I bought the Combs Heart with my Flame Totem build. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, we'll use it here too, why not? Especially considering it is 39%, so why not? Now, this is not required, of course, but it did help make me a little bit tankier. But if we take it off, you'll see that I'm at 18.5k. Of course, with our attack speed, or attack damage steroid from Chieftain, it goes up quite rapidly, but if we take the chest piece off, we don't actually lose out on that much damage. It's just a nice, massive chunk of HP, as you can see right there, turning out to be 1.5k health. So, Combs Heart makes you nice and tanky. Now, for the rest of the gear, if you looked at my Flame Totem Chieftain, it's pretty much the same. I'm using a Corrupt Orianes for Int and Dex. Not really needed as much. I could probably go for anything else here, but it keeps my resist capped and fire damage, as well as Fire Leech, because we do have full fire conversion on our Cyclone here, which is exceptional. So that gives us Fire Leech alongside the talent. In here we can get another bit of Fire Leech from Death Fury. Quite nice there. What else? Everything else is pretty much the same. We have in our helmet, which is just resists max life, a little bit of extra damage layer from physical damage taken from hits as lightning, which is quite nice. Not required, of course, but just an extra bit of defensive layer. Up here we have Leap Slam and Enduring Cry, linked to faster attacks. This is just going to link up to Leap Slam. You don't really need this if you don't want it. It's whatever, it's just for movement. And then we have Herald of Ash sat in here, which is quite nice. The reason we have that in here is because in my Essence Worm, I have a Hatred. This becomes more damage than Anger. We were using Anger because you could drop down 3 totems, right? So Anger multiplies 3 times. But it doesn't end up multiplying when it's just you, so Hatred giving extra cold damage, not interfering with our full fire conversion, becomes even just free damage. Combine that with our Etziri's Promise for even more free damage, and you start doing work when you're clearing trash. It is quite nice. Now my other ring is just max life, resists, fire damage. I got lucky with the fire damage, bit of extra damage there. The necklace is the same one from before. Max life, resists, increased fire damage, and increased spell damage. This might be able to change depending on what you want to use. You could probably use the, the Vaal necklace, I think. I don't know if I have one in here or not. Probably not, but there's like a Vaal necklace that gives you bonuses if you use a Vaal skill, so when you hit Vaal Cyclone you'd get a massive bonus. That would be quite useful if you wanted to use that instead of something along these lines. Could probably get away with that as well. And then in my shoes here we have cast when damage taken linked to Stone Golem and Molten Shell with an increased duration support. That's just to give us a bit of an extra defensive layer, some bonus armor, and a bit of AoE damage. And of course, Stone Golem is just free life. You may want to use Flame Golem here, depending on how you feel your damage is. If it's not high enough, try a Flame Golem. If you're struggling with living, try a Stone Golem. Those are interchangeable. Now you'll see I've started experimenting with some unique flasks. This is actually the first time I've kind of done this. I've normally strayed away from these unless it's like the Vaal flask. But I got recommended an Etziri's Promise and a Lion's Roar, and these are both actually quite useful. Etziri's Promise is a ton of damage with Whirlwinding. It is absolutely tremendous. Tons and tons of damage and chaos resistance. Always nice. Now, my Lion's Roar is also pretty nice because it's an on-demand fear, or 75% chance to fear. So if you walk into a pack that you know isn't going to be spectacular for you, you can hit Lion's Roar and have a chance to fear pretty much all of them. Also, you get armor on it, so I traded out my Freeze Flask for Lion's Roar. It's still, I don't know if it's paying off or not, but it is definitely nice to have some on-demand CC, especially considering, say, you click your Cyclone. All of this time from one click, you can't do anything unless you remove your boots for whatever reason. That's the only way to, like, cancel Cyclone, I think, or cancel Vaal Cyclone anyways. So, with that click, you can't really do anything in that downtime, so being able to fear things with Lion's Roar and giving you that extra bit of survivability is always nice. Otherwise, for flasks, I have my Experimenter's Staunching Quicksilver, a Panicked Flask, which has saved me a lot of times when first trying out the build after I switched it. There was a few times where I did end up dying, and this saved me quite a few times. Panicked Flask is always quite nice. And of course, splitting up your flasks. This one's Dousing, this one's Poison Removal, which is just Catalyzed of Curing for poison removal. And then of course, Staunching here. Staunching is the most important if you're going to use other flasks, because if you don't have Corrupted Blood Removal, you are going to die. And that is pretty much the items and gem setups. I didn't really mess around with the Pantheons much. I'm still using Brine King and Shikari here for chaos damage, and hopefully at some point that I'm immune to poison would be quite nice. I haven't even gotten like Divine Vessel drops at all, so I mean, that's whatever. But now the skill tree is where things start to get a little interesting, because we changed out all of the totem nodes to increased damage nodes. So for those of you just tuning into this character for the first time, we go down through the life node, come up here, grab the dex. Keep in mind we need dexterity to make Cyclone work in the first place. We grab the life up here, come in here, and this is kind of an extra node you can take at the end to get extra damage. You don't need to go here immediately. Then we come up, and then you can go either to the right down to the full Scion cluster, or you can come over, grab the dex, come down and grab Arsonist here, grab Tireless, that sort of thing. We got this a little bit later on to get extra damage. If you need to, you can grab that. Then we come all the way up, grab this node right here to get more dex, more max life, and then I come up here, grab melee damage, and get extra life here. This is debatable. This is a debatable bit of, little bit of a cluster. You could potentially take out all of this to just take more life here, and then maybe get berserking down here. It is a potentially good choice. It may end up being worth it, but I liked having that extra max life, so I mean, it's whatever. You can decide that on your own terms here. Grab the area of effect. This is exceptional. Makes Cyclone hit in a wider radius and kill more stuff for you. It is exceptional. Grab some of the LE damage down here. I was planning on actually grabbing this weapon LE damage, but I apparently forgot to, so maybe take this out, grab the rest of the Scion cluster down here, and then grab the weapon LE damage right here. Probably a better idea than just having this cluster here. Still doing some experimentation, as you can see. But once we grab those, come over here, come down, get all the life, the endurance charge, and then come back up, get the jewel socket. I don't know if you really need the jewel socket on this build, but coming in for fire damage and some elemental damage, always quite nice. Maybe grabbing this extra bit of LE damage now might be worthwhile. I'm not entirely sure. LE damage scales a little bit weirdly. And then down here we kind of come around, get strength, get more life here, come down, get another endurance charge. Keep in mind we do actually get endurance charges from Cyclone, as I talked about beforehand, so endurance charges are exceptional. Come down here, get Juggernaut for maximum life and all of these nodes, grab the strength node here and come up to get our axe cluster, which will give us onslaught on kill on a 10% chance, and then 10% chance to bleed. So we have chance to bleed here, we have chance to bleed on the gloves, and then we have chance to bleed on the chance to bleed support. So we wind up with 65% chance to bleed, so that our hemophilia gloves can proc quite often. We're also using blood magic, so we don't have to worry about our Cyclone costing too much mana. Now as a result we do lose out on some health, but I mean, it's whatever. I've learned to roll with it. I grab the blood magic life down here and come down and grab bloodless so you can't be life leeched, and grab that cluster as well. I talked about a few changes with maybe just changing out what's up here. Keep the area of effect, grab the weapon LE damage, and grab the life nodes down here. But I think that is pretty much the update for this build. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video and enjoyed the tier 15 clear. Coming up will be a probably 10 to 20 minute session of just me doing some speed clears on this build, trying to make a little bit of currency, and just showing you some more raw gameplay of this build, where you pretty much hold right click and trash dies, and then you get to the boss and you decide if you really feel like doing it or not, depending on what map you're clearing. But that is going to be all for me. Hope you guys are hyped for Delve, and stay tuned for more content. As always, take care, lads. So heaven, if you sent us down.